Hello, traders. Well, morning video. I'll try to go as fast as I can here. Um, Something I always get alerted to on the futures whenever the volume on the bonds outpaces that of the ES futures, and we got twice the volume, that something's happening in the bonds. I think we're actually got a sell signal setting up here on the bonds. So keep that in mind going forward into today's session. I think we're going to get responsive selling setting up here in the bonds going forward. So TLT puts is probably not a horrible idea at these price levels. So just keep that in mind as a potential trade setup for today. And now we had an initial dip here, and the overnight futures are doing great. Okay, and we had a little dip here. President Z came out in China warning of a prolonged disruption in China over this coronavirus, suggesting this might take most of the quarter, the problems that they're facing in China. And you really think about it here, you know, the China's woes are actually opportunities for a lot of American businesses because China not being able to get a lot of goods and services out to global markets, that should be a catalyst for the number one. We're the number one economy in the world, and China being number two. They're basically a major competitor of ours. So this is actually a more of a stimulus for American exports versus a negative. Now, you don't get me wrong, we're nearing a situation where we're going to have supply disruptions, which have not materialized yet, but it's something to keep in mind that it's a catalyst for American equities. So, but man, look at this move right here. Something happened here about 1:15 yesterday and caused this thing happen. And I don't know if any of you realize that happening. I actually saw on Twitter when the news broke, and boom, and I was in the room calling out long positions in Microsoft, swing long positions in Nvidia, and the reasoning for that is what happened right here. It's like, well, what am I talking about? Well, you go right over here. Repo and reverse repo operations. The Federal Reserve pumped $130 billion at 1:15 yesterday into the economy. It's amazing what central banks can do. And basically, under this situation, anytime you have a major injection of funds by the Federal Reserve, those are nights you want to be net long, thinking that you're going to have a gap up in the markets. It's a high odds probability trade. And basically, that's exactly what we're getting. And so I had suggested in a room for people to do that. I did not realize that was going to happen. And I have trading rules, and I had already hit my number of trades for the day. And so I did not take my own advice and push overnight longs. But I was calling out some really nice movers in the overnight session, which seem to be panning out so far. Okay. So the ES futures are up really nice here. You go over to the NQs, holding up real well. They didn't even come back hardly at all on that news out of President Z. And then Russell just hanging out here at the 2020 Open. Okay. So the Russell's really net lagging here. Another thing, you got Powell speaking today. And look what's happening here on a monthly standpoint on the dollar. And we've had a major rally up in the dollar. So basically, what's happening with the whole coronavirus thing? You got money rotating into bonds, you got money rotating into consumer staples, money rotating into utilities. And at fourth place, they typically park their money in times of crisis. That's US dollar. But why isn't that happening? It's because of all these repo operations. They went and put all that money into the economy yesterday to try to suppress the dollar going forward, because basically a breakout of the dollar to upside, that is a tax on US equities. So just keep that in mind going forward. And Trump does not want a strong dollar for his economy. And that's basically what's going on here in operations. They're trying to keep this down, and plus they have the other side of the coin. You got the whole thing going on in China, which is they're basically shut down. Uh, so they need to have this injection in money just to keep stabilize global equities and make sure they have ample liquidity to ride out the storm. And that is a very bullish scenario for U.S. equities because they're continually pumping in this money for global equities, where U.S.'s equities are actually catching the brunt of the gains from all this pumpage. Okay, going forward here. So keep that in mind that shorting this Fed central bank induced liquidity is very difficult to short right now. Okay, and and also on the flip side, the Dixie is also measured against the euro, and Big Ben just recently left the euro, so that is a natural deflator to the euro, taking out a major component of the euro. So by pumping in all this extra liquidity into the markets, it's actually helping to stabilize the euro versus the dollar. So there's multiple reasons why the Fed has to keep pumping money in here to stabilize the dollar and to help stabilize equities. So, and then on the flip side, uh, so basically what I'm expecting out of Powell today, he's going to try to start talking down global equities, talking about risk of equities getting too overextended and stuff like that. Similar comments that came out of Greenspan back in the 2006, 2007 era. Okay, because basically he's in a situation he has to continue normal operations of liquidity, the repo repurchase programs. I don't even think he's going to slow it down, to be honest, when he comes out at 10 o'clock this morning and makes his comments because of the situation going on in the markets. I think he has to, he's in the situation that he can't even slow down the repo to stabilize global equities because of the coronavirus situation. So, and that is just going to be a fuel to the upside on global equities um, as this liquidity continues to flow into the market. Okay, so far in the pre-markets, Sprint and T-Mobile, the merger is expected to be approved today, and the market is really getting one heck of a bid in the overnight session. Actually, the bid is too high, actually, so it's probably going to come in today. Uh, and pretty much, another thing to keep in mind going forward here, JD.com and Alibaba, which gets goods and services delivered to people's homes, these are probably going to have very, very big first quarters in China as people having to get their goods and services delivered to their homes um, and not get out of their houses. And that typically is very, very good for e-commerce for the quarter. And it sounds like most of the quarter is going to be in that situation. So keep that in mind going forward here. Uh, and plus, I think Alibaba is reporting later this week. So uh, that's something to keep in mind coming forward. Even JD is catching a little bit of a bid. Now, on the flip side, Walmart, which earnings are coming out here soon, that's something you wouldn't really want to be taking big positions because they are going to have to lower guidance with the whole. They have a large China exposure too, and basically all the Walmart stores in China are shut down. So just keep that in mind going forward. That's probably going to be. They're going to have great earnings, but the China effect, because their brick and mortar, is going to be devastating to that account. And then there was news out this morning from the FAA chief that they're making progress, but nothing of any the news was nothing of any substantial. We all thought that they were going to announce a month from now the normal operations, but they, at least the news that came out last night, did not. It was just a puff piece, in my opinion. So we could actually, see some profit taking in Boeing since that news came out yesterday evening. So that's just a few of the things that I'm looking at here. And then my scans. Scan here. NASDAQ 100. We got Tesla. AMD Micron, and NVIDIA. NVIDIA is reporting tonight, so there is a bid underneath these stocks. I have 270 on. What they're trying to do is pump NVIDIA into the earnings up to my resistance, and we're already at 265. And basically the 270 area is major resistance, so I fully expect a pump up to 270 or higher today. So keep that in mind going forward here, that NVIDIA, the 270 range looks to be target into earnings tonight, in my opinion. And then we have, let's see, what was the other one? Microsoft. While I'm on this screen, Microsoft. Another one, gapping up 190 already. My next miner, I had mentioned this was some major resistance, and I was actually considering some short positioning. Look how it just completely blew through this resistance. Well, this is the same level of resistance as here, and we're going to be likely running into 194 today on Microsoft. And then after that, now this is far more significant resistance. So I'm really thinking before this market corrects, we're gonna tag to $200 on Microsoft here in the likely this week. So just keep that in mind going forward. This is in a very accelerated uptrend on Microsoft, suggesting we might be hitting a major topping situation at $200 on Microsoft. Okay. And this is a quick look at my Microsoft or my S&P 500 scan. Gilead, news came out that China's going to get most of their drug for the virus from Cuba. So that might be a negative driving force for Gilead in the short term. Cisco's reporting later this week, so it's one of the high volume movers this morning. Apple is going to have continued pressure from the shutdowns in China. I think before the end of the week, we are going to see Apple breaking the 20 SMA daily. So just keep that in mind going forward here, that I think we're going, Pop should be shorted in Microsoft if it had not been for all the fiscal stimulus. I think without the fiscal stimulus, we would have probably saw a breakdown yesterday. But all that money being pumped into the markets saved even Apple along with the rest of the markets. So that's just one I'm looking at. And then, as I said before, Amazon, I think it's on its road to 2,400. So keep that going forward here. That could easily, as way Amazon moves, we could see that by mid next week. So, it's hard to believe that kind of move. But yeah, the way these markets are moving right now, yeah, by mid next week, easily we could see Amazon at 2,400. So I'm sure as heck not going to short these markets. So, but it gives you a little bit of idea what's happening early this morning. This is 5:30 in the morning, and what I'm seeing in the markets. I just don't think we're anywhere near shortable territory. One last thing, SPY on the expected moves. You have to go on the daily chart for my for my tool to work. So basically, SPY, what was that? 337.30 area, and then I can go down on the time frame. 3730. So basically, we're not even there yet. So 337.30 area. Okay, right up here. So basically, I think we're going to have higher highs today. I do think we're going to be checking the market maker move high for the session. So actually, these things are they're actually pretty accurate to where they're supposed to be. But yeah, I think we're going to be running right up into this, and we're going to be tagging the expected move high today. That's my bias in these markets, especially after all that stimulus. So keep it in mind, on that one. And then the Qs actually breaking above it today. Let's see how accurate those are. Yep, we're right there right now, hugging the top of the market maker move for the day. So keep that in mind going forward here. That could act as resistance, but I think the S&Ps are actually wanting to break to tag it. The S&Ps are the main one. They're 60% of the volume in the markets. So that's why I think we're probably going to break out above the expected market maker move today on, especially with the NVIDIA reporting tonight, and Microsoft and NVIDIA both major driving forces in the Qs. So yeah, that's why I really think we're going to actually break out above the market maker move for the day. So that's just some of my take on the markets today, and I will see you guys in the trading room. Like the video if you like it, and please leave comments below as stuff you're seeing that I'm not seeing, and maybe you're seeing bias and stuff that's different. Like I said in my weekend video, I was bearish in the markets, but whenever the markets prove me wrong, and when there's central bank manipulation, there's nothing I can do. I mean, when they're pumping that kind of money into markets, the markets are going to go higher. So, but I could have been right if the banks hadn't been pumping more money in. I could have been very easily right. So that's the way it goes, and you just trade the markets, trade what the markets give you, and don't try to fight the trend. So good luck, and I will see you in the room.